think definitely sit down with like a journal or a book or, your old school A4 lined paper or a big A3 poster and just try and get everything that you can out first. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be, something that you're going to present to anyone. I think it's just making sure that you can start delivering those different ideas, that all those puzzle pieces will start to form what you believe will be the best way to go about your business. And that I think was the biggest thing for me was, okay, what do I believe is the most important steps that I needed to take? Okay, well, I needed to build my website. I needed to make sure I had, accessible information and what that accessible information was going to look like, and putting all of those steps in place and going, okay, well, do I need to buy a rent roll? Am I going to organically grow my rent roll? Warwick's a small town. How far out are we going to go? All of those kinds of questions that you ask yourself every day when you're working for someone else.
Welcome back to another episode of the Property Management Podcast. Now I'm going to dive straight into this episode, and it's for anyone that's thinking about starting their own property management business. I bet you've thought about it a lot. I bet you've weighed up the pros and cons, maybe even done a rough business plan and jotted down some numbers. And then fear has taken over. I can't do this. Who'd want to work with me? I don't know what I'm doing. There's way too much work to be done. I don't even know where to start. Believe me, I told myself all of those things and way more when I started my property management business. I was lucky though. I was going into partnership with my husband at the time, and he talked me off the edge many times and gave me that extra confidence that I needed to get started. And let me tell you, it was one of the biggest risks I'd ever taken. And it turned out mostly okay. Of course, there's been plenty of challenges, heartaches, and hurdles to overcome, but I wouldn't change anything. Well, mostly anything. But that's a story for another episode. But starting my own business has given me creative freedom, financial freedom, and most importantly, with 4 children, lifestyle freedom. And my guest in this episode will tell you exactly the same thing. Embrace the fear, stop listening to the negative voices, and just bloody go for it. Krista Going started out on her own in May this year, and she had just 3 properties. 4 months later, she's at 81 properties and has just completed her auctioneer's course to be qualified as the only female auctioneer on the Darling Downs in Queensland. Krista had enough of growing an asset for someone else, and with 4 teenage children, she needed more lifestyle freedom. Despite living in a smallish country town, she still has to ferry her kids from art classes to horse riding, hockey, other sports, and motorbike races, just to name a few of the activities her kids get to enjoy. Star Realty Queensland was born from her lifelong passion for property and people, and wanting to share her old-fashioned country values with real estate clients. So she launched Star Realty Queensland, and it was born from her lifelong passion for property and people and wanting to share her old-fashioned country values with real estate clients. If you work with Star Realty Queensland, you will be working directly with Krista, gaining the benefit of her vast experience and dedication. She was born and bred in the township of Warwick, and Krista uses her vast local knowledge and understanding to her advantage, and she ensures that any advice is tailored specifically to her clients' property and personal circumstances. She has an amazing attention to detail and professionalism, and her hands-on approach ensures she goes above and beyond to meet her clients' property needs. You'll quickly see why she's growing so quickly when you listen to this episode. Her enthusiasm, passion, and personality simply shines through in everything that she does. So let me introduce you to the inspiring Krista Going. Krista, thank you so much for joining me on the Property Management Podcast. Now, before we dive in, can you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got started doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I got into property management almost 12 years ago now, actually. So my eldest daughter was in hospital. I seen a sign while I was in Brisbane, looking for a real estate course, needed something to keep me busy while she was in hospital, and I could only visit her for a couple of hours each time. And yeah, went ahead and did it that way. So have done all sides of real estate as well. So commercial sales, property management, and recently just got my auctioneer's license.
Oh, that is really
So,
exciting.
yeah, so one of the only female auctioneers on the Darling Downs, which is very exciting for out here. So, yeah, I'm all over it pretty much, but yeah, definitely specializing at the moment in boutique property management.
Fantastic. So it was a sign from the universe. Was your daughter a preemie baby? Is that how you know?
No, she was just born unwell. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
hear that, but obviously thriving now. So you're a mother of four kids.
Yep.
And I'm going to ask the obvious question before we talk about your business and how you got started going out on your own. But how do you actually, juggle it all? I know you just were saying before we jumped in the episode that you've got sports, you've got arts, you've got horses, you've got motorbikes, and running a business. How do you sort of keep all of that, all the balls in the air?
Yeah, definitely. My biggest thing is time management. My partner will tell you all the time that my schedule is, so structured and so like this is what's happening and that's what's happening. And that's how I believe I've been able to keep all the balls in the air. I'm not going to say that they stay in the air all the time, but they definitely is a juggle. I'm very, very fortunate to have my mum and dad live in town as well. And so, yeah, when we're kind of stuck, we're like, okay, can you do this one for me? Or can you do that one for me? Which is always so helpful. And because Warwick is such a small town as well, going from one side of town to the other to a sporting event's only like 7 minutes. We only have 4 sets of traffic lights out here, so traffic's never an issue.
That's amazing. That is so good that and having that support is really valuable as well, even if you are in a smaller town. No
Yes.
traffic worries for you. So I tell you what, that is my biggest pet hate is when you are running late to get your kids to something and you get stuck in traffic.
Oh, yes.
Nothing like that to elevate the stress levels. So yes.
No,
Uh,
100%. Like if there is ever traffic out here, we're like, what is going on in town this weekend? And it's usually around like, big festivals that we have and, events and all of those kinds of things. So
That's
yeah,
amazing. So how did you then, let's go back to the start now. How did you go from doing a real estate course to now
yep.
running your own successful business, now being an auctioneer, the only female auctioneer on the Darling Downs? How talk us through that journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I worked for another company for almost going on 8 years. Him and I had worked together at previous companies before he opened his own as well. And unfortunately, he got quite crook and had to sell 3 years ago now. So I worked for another company in town. And one night we were sitting at home with one of our friends, and he was like, just do it, just go. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe, oh, I don't know. And he's like, and I said, but what if this happens? And what if that happens? And, all these kinds of things. The more I kind of thought about it, I was like, I actually think I can do this. I actually think if I sit down and I put my plan together and I go whole hog and, don't second guess myself at all, then I'm going to be okay. It's not like I woke up yesterday and was like, you know what, I'm going to open my own boutique property management. I've done this for, almost 12 years now. I'm a local. I grew up here. People know who I am. And the small town vibe is very much a big thing for us as well. But not just that, people value when they can take face value, you're real. You're not fake. You're not someone that they're going to ring and they're going to get 20 different people before they actually speak to, the principal of the business. They ring my phone number and they're going to talk directly to the owner. So I think that was the biggest thing for me is I wanted people to feel that connection and that, responsibility and that place where they could come and feel like their property was actually being valued and cared for, just like I would value and care for my own. So that was my biggest thing of why I've gone out and done it the way I have.
That's amazing. I think there's a lot of value in that for anyone listening about, even the bigger you get, the more touch points I think you really need to have with your clients. And,
Yep.
if you're running your own business, you should be making yourself accessible to clients as well. No hiding behind sort of, 3 or 4 different people before they can actually get to you. So there's a lot of thank you for sharing that. It's amazing. If you are anything like me, you think you know your rent roll numbers. Well, I thought I did until I had a rent roll health check, and I was quite literally shocked. The money I was leaving on the table was astounding, and this is not something that I'm proud to admit. There were missed management fees, let fees, advertising, and lease renewal fees not being charged, and properties even without bonds. And all of this was happening despite monthly audits being conducted in my business. So how did I uncover all these gaps in my valuable income? Well, I had a rent roll due diligence from my good friend Tazi, aka the Rent Roll Queen and founder of the Tazi Way, a specialist in rent roll due diligence, business valuation, and management rights. The Tazi Way is the innovative force driving the real estate industry. With 25 years of business and real estate acumen, they find gaps and risks in your agency to find undiscovered value. If you'd like to book your business in for a rent roll due diligence, head to the link in the show notes and mention That Property Mum for a 10% discount. Now, let's talk about your fears, because a lot of the people in my audience are thinking about going out on their own or have just gone out on their own. So, and you did mention you had to really shift that mindset from that negative thinking and that fear mongering, like chasing the worst case scenarios, to just going all in. So was it the mindset shift what were the fears that were
I think the mindset shift, as well as, the support and the backing of the people that you trusted with your secret, as you call it, when starting to mind map out what you're wanting to create and what your business is going to look like. And, you have to share that with people who you trust and people who will be able to give you honest feedback. I think that is the biggest thing to take as well. But I think my biggest thing was knowing that I needed to back myself. I needed to know that at no point there, I knew my rules, I knew my regulations, I have my training, I have all that kind of knowledge that I needed. And I do have a client base as well behind me, that if anything was ever to happen there, that, all I had to do was back myself and know that, my team behind me, which, is my beautiful partner and my kids and my mum and dad, who, on those days where I would ring and I'd be like, but what if this goes wrong? And what if this happens? And, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my house and my car and my kids are going to be sleeping down at the dam. Like, you send yourself into a complete spiral. And, my dad has always been a big, you can't live in what if, Krista. Like, and that's what he'll do to me, all the time, when I'd be like, but what if? And he's like, well, are you going to live in what if? And I'm like, no, I don't want to live there. And he goes, then jump. I'm like, okay, we're jumping. And, there were days there where I'd just, all of a sudden I'd be, trying to put together all this stuff to, make sure everything was perfect for, what I wanted my business to be and create. And then I'd just like burst into tears, and Terry, my partner, he'd stand there and he'd be like, why are you crying? And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And he'd be like, really? Like, take a breath, go and have a coffee, come back, and let's show me what you've got. And, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning where, your brain's going at 10,642 miles an hour and you go, just got to get it out. And you're sitting there with your laptop under your sheets and you're typing up and doing those kinds of things because you don't want to wake anyone up. And like, he'd roll over sometimes. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, building my website. And he's like, whatever. Like, I think they were the biggest fears for me was, that big what if. And as long as I knew that I had that support and that backing from that family and those friends who were 100% honest with me and knew exactly where I was coming from, I was going to be okay. And I think it was just taking that moment to go, okay, we got this. So
Brilliant. I can totally relate to that. Waking up in the middle of the night, working, head going a million miles an hour with all the ideas floating around. So that's very entrepreneurial minded and yeah, thinking so. That's not a surprise at all. So what is if somebody was sitting here thinking about taking the leap and starting their own business, what is some of the best advice that you would give them to get started? There's been so much talk of stress, overwhelm, and burnout in property management lately. Do you want to know how I overcame all of that? Yes, I hit rock bottom multiple times, but I got myself a virtual assistant. Actually, not just one, but 3. But I didn't just get any VA, I got a PMVA. What are they? Well, they are the most well-trained in the business. And not only that, you also have a backup VA. So that essentially your business is never without admin support ever again. And my health, time, and business has never looked back. Your PMVA can take care of tasks like rent arrears, lease preparation and renewals, maintenance follow-up, routine inspection bookings, data entry, audits, prospecting, inbox management, and so much more. And the best part of implementing a PMVA in my business was that it freed up my time and my team's time to take care of important things like customer service. What makes me feel so safe is that PMVA is owned by Tiffany Botel, both here and in the Philippines, making my data secure and giving me more control over the VA arrangement. So head to the link in the show notes to book in your discovery call with Lady Boss Tiff.
I think definitely sit down with like a journal or a book or, your old school A4 lined paper or a big A3 poster and just try and get everything that you can out first. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be, something that you're going to present to anyone. I think it's just making sure that you can start delivering those different ideas, that all those puzzle pieces will start to form what you believe will be the best way to go about your business. And that I think was the biggest thing for me was, okay, what do I believe is the most important steps that I needed to take? Okay, well, I needed to build my website. I needed to make sure I had, accessible information and what that accessible information was going to look like, and putting all of those steps in place and going, okay, well, do I need to buy a rent roll? Am I going to organically grow my rent roll? Warwick's a small town, how far out are we going to go? All of those kinds of questions that you ask yourself every day when you're working for someone else. And when you're working for someone else, they go, oh no, we don't go any further than 10 kilometers. Whereas my business, I service all the way out to, Stanthorpe and Allora, Clifton, Killarney, Carrara, which, is a big circle for me. And I didn't want anyone to go, no, you can only do this. I didn't want to be put in that box anymore. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was taking away the boxes that everyone wants to be put in and going, I'm breaking out. This is what I want to be. This is how I want it to look. And putting that all onto paper and creating your business model from that is probably the most powerful thing that you can do, because when you are talking to someone about it, it's going to come straight from the heart and it's going to have feeling and meaning behind it as well.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That must be really empowering, and getting that that creativity out, because a lot of people think that property management's not very creative, but I think when you start running your own business, you get to be creative and you get to, like you said, set things in your own terms. And I think that's one of the most rewarding parts for me. Would that be the same for you?
100%. Even just creating like my logo that you can see behind me today, it's literally a house, and it's something that when you looked at real estate, you're like, oh, everyone is blue, red, and like white, or everyone was, yellow and black. And I was like, I don't want to be the same as everyone else. I want to be able to wear a bright pink shirt to work, and I want to be able to, have a bit of fun in my office, and, have that general well-being, knowing that, my staff who work for me can come in and go, you know what, I've had a really crap morning. This is what happened. I just need 10. Go take your 10, go take half an hour. Actually, you know what? Go home and do what you need to do and come back to me when you're ready. I think that to me is so much more important than anything else, because I just think sometimes big corporations and big places forget that, you know, we have kids and we have lives and we have, you know, that fella that cut us off at the roundabout, or, you know, the toilet broke at home and we're waiting for the plumber, or, you know, all those kinds of things that happen that you kind of get yourself all worked up about before getting into work, that sometimes just that 10 minutes you just go, I just needed that.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably the person cutting you off at the roundabout was one of your family members. So,
Yeah, highly likely.
Friends. You probably knew that person. That's a bit awkward.
Yeah, no, definitely. Warwick has definitely grown for us in probably the last, you know, 2-3 years. We've got major development happening out here. And so I actually said to my mum works as my receptionist, and she's just completed her certificate. So it's very exciting for her. And she's going to come on my next PM. So for me, being able to know that I opened in May and I've got a receptionist and I've just hired another staff member, you know, we're growing. And yeah, like I go, oh wow, this is amazing. Like this is everything that you want in the growth of the town.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so good. So good to hear that. So, and a great time to be starting a business as well, if you're in a growth period in Warwick itself. So,
Definitely.
and I guess, you know, there has been some challenges along the way. It hasn't all been amazing. So maybe share some of those challenges that you've faced and what you've kind of done to overcome them, or, you know, or how you're working through some of those challenges.
Definitely. I think my biggest challenge was walking away from a rent roll that I had grown for 3 years and walking away with 3 properties. So the day that I opened up my Star Realty Queensland, I had 3 properties to my management list. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how this happens. Like, what's going to be my thing? Like, and I remember sitting here going, I've got 3 properties, like 3, like Property Me's open. I've got it, and there's 3 names in there. Like that to me was just like a big punch in the face, I suppose, because you set your goals and you set your intentions and you have, you know, your big master business plan and all the rest of it. But when it actually becomes reality, I think that was my biggest freak out moment was, well, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to turn the lights on? How's the electricity, the internet, you know, how am I going to pay my mortgage with 3 properties? And I think that was my biggest thing. And I went, no, hold on, stop, take a breath. What are we going to do? And, you know, so that's when we did like flyers, and we did our open night, and we had a grand opening, invited everyone in town, and, you know, all the local businesses, and, you know, advertising and Facebook. And we did recently, actually, sorry, this is completely off topic, but recently we did a $50 meat tray. Don't know if you saw it on my Facebook or not. $50 meat tray. And it was a like and share my page.
Yep.
Just from the local butcher in town. We had 478 people like and share this meat tray for Father's Day it was. And we just drew their name out of the hat. But the amount of traction and knowledge that we got from that, and people still now sharing my meat tray that's clearly been gone, was massive. It was massive.
That's great.
So I think it's really definitely, like we talk about, putting it down to, you know, going, yep, this is the reality of if you're going to organically grow a rent roll. You're going to have the days where you go, oh my gosh, there is literally 5. There is literally, you know, and then you have to celebrate the wins. That's the biggest thing as well. You have to celebrate the wins. Because if you don't, you're going to end up sending yourself nuts. So yeah, I think that was my biggest, I think, reality check and call for me, and struggle was opening Property Me and going, where's the rest of the pages? Or, you know, where's everyone gone? because, you work, and you would be the same. You work so hard to build up, your owners and your tenant relationships, and, your plumbers and your sparkies, and, you have your little tradies that you go to, and, you go to people, and then you open it and you go, oh, whoa, hold on. Have I done the wrong thing? Like,
to start from scratch.
That to me was just kind of like, oh, wow, what do I do here? So I think that was my biggest thing, was that reality.
Do you mind if I ask how many you've grown to now?
We're sitting at 81.
Wow. Since May or March, should you say?
Since May.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Look at you go. That's amazing.
It's very, very exciting time for us, and it's all just, I think, lots of it is new business for us as well. People that I've never even met, didn't know. We have a really beautiful location where we are, and we're just, I have so many people come in and they're like, well, we'd like to talk. And I'm like, well, I am Krista. And they go, oh, okay. And I'm like, sit at my table. Let's do your paperwork, and real estate is very much about selling yourself. But I think it's also, they want to be able to talk to that person who's not going to tell them porkies, that's going to give them the facts and the knowledge and the bits and pieces that they need to know, and not the fluff. Some people, and you can pick up your people, like you have to be able to read people. You can read the people who want the fluff, and then you can read the people who want just the facts and the knowledge and the regulations pulled. I think that's a really big thing, as well as being able to read your personalities.
Absolutely. That's great advice there. One other question I want to ask you. So what are some of the best things that you've implemented into your business then, or that you couldn't do without now? I mean, there's so much tech, there's so much software. What, if somebody's just getting started, obviously, expense is a big thing when you've only got 3 properties or, a few properties to start off with. What are those tools that you've got in your business?
So we use Property Me. Property Me has been a big one for us. I'm avid user of Property Me. I think having that knowledge and that data as well that Property Me offers is awesome. We have an office computer as well. We've obviously got our phones, but other than that, technology wise, we're kind of, that's about it for us. So we've kind of kept it really very simple. Like, we don't have some big fancy dancy photocopier, scanner, printer. We're still old school, printer, scan, you have to plug the USB in to scan it and then take it to your computer. But it's just kind of managing those costs that way. So trying to keep them down as much as possible in, utilizing what you already have. So like I already had my laptop at home, so I didn't need to go buy myself a new laptop. It just became my work laptop. My phone, your phones are so versatile now as well. You can run Property Me straight off your phone. Those kinds of things are just, I suppose, ways that we saved money, in that we didn't want to add all the stresses of, having, big fancy dancy photocopier, or, the 20, the full page ads in the paper, or all of those kinds of things, that we just went, okay, well, this is how we're going to do it. So we did, a quarter of a page ad instead of a whole page. Sponsored the local hockey team, because we get our brand on their shirt, straight up. And there's about 600 kids that play hockey, so it's straight away just finding those different ways of getting your name out there. I sign wrote my entire ute, and it goes everywhere. So, and it's free. Anytime anyone drives my car, it's free advertising, as long as you don't flip off anyone, I suppose, as well. As you're driving around, you're okay. But yeah, it's free advertising straight up. So I think they're the biggest things for me, was trying to keep the costs of opening a business as low as we could, but not making it scungy or looking bad, just making sure that we had what we needed straight up. And anything from there is just pure growth.
Yeah. So spending the money on the right things, like your marketing, as opposed
Yeah.
to having fancy equipment. And and there is a lot of software out there. You can waste a lot. There's inspection software, there's maintenance software, and I guess as you grow, you can look and see which elements or which software is going to support your business best. But at the start, you don't need a lot, which is great. Like
exactly.
So if anyone's got a fear of needing lots of money to start their business, they can let go of that fear right now, because you actually don't need a lot of money.
Yeah.
To start it. So that's amazing. You've shared some great advice there as well. I love that, don't flip off anybody if you're driving the company car with all the branding over it either. That's good advice.
It's not the best look.
No, definitely not. Now, I love personal development. Do you have a tool or resource, book, podcast, or something that you could share with our listeners?
Oh, I really got into like meditation there for a little while as well. I'm going to say that I haven't been doing it as often as I would like to, because obviously the world got really busy really quickly. But I think that was my biggest thing, was the gym and going and doing meditation for me were two massive things. So yeah, as of the 1st of October, I'm putting aside 2 afternoons a week to get back into A, the gym, and B, doing my mindful meditation. 15 minutes every morning, and it was just a YouTube. I'll share the YouTube link with you, and it's all about I am. So this lady sits there and she talks about, I am, beautiful. I am strong. I am powerful. All of those kinds of things that sometimes as women and mums and, the world gets so busy that we forget. And, that 15 minutes that you need to take for yourself every day, I have mine playing sometimes while I'm in the bathroom getting ready for the day, because I won't have any other time to do it, but it's still on and I'm still listening to it. And it's that empowering movement there.
I'm a big advocate of meditation as well. And like you said, and I think it's really important to, it is easy to let go when the busier you get and the more things you've got to do. But trying to make that a non-negotiable, whether it's exercise or meditation
100%.
or I love journaling as well. It's something I do with that busy head. Otherwise, I am up in the middle of the night writing things down. But I just take sort of 10 minutes after my meditation and get everything out of my head. And I feel so much calmer and in control. I feel in control of my day rather than my day controlling me. When those crazy things in property management come up, I feel like I can, I'm not reacting to them. I
Take
can
them head on.
Yep. So which is good. So it's amazing. And the more consistent you do it, I think the better it affects you in all aspects of your life. I'm calmer with my kids when they trigger me and push my buttons. I'm not reacting as much. So it does make a big difference. Krista, thank you so much for sharing all of that. How can our audience connect with you or find out a little bit more about your business?
Yeah, definitely. We have a Facebook page, so Star Realty QLD. We also have a website, so www.starrealtyqld.com. And we have Instagram as well. So otherwise, just shoot me an email or a text message straight up. And I'm happy to chat with anyone who's wanting to, jump out and see whether they can do it as well, because it's all about empowering each other.
Absolutely. I love the term, collaboration, not competition.
Yes.
I think that's really important. And I'm looking forward to seeing your journey as an auctioneer. So maybe once you get sort of established and set up, and in a couple of months, we might chat further about that and see how 100%. That's all going, and talking about, the process and how women in particular can embrace that and get on board with that.
Jump into a very male-dominated industry.
Actually, I've just been reading a book called The Most Powerful Woman in the Room. And it is about the author is a lady who was the first female auctioneer for Christie's auction houses. It's really good, really empowering, a great read, and how she commands a room or an auction. So I would definitely recommend that if you haven't read it already. It's
definitely. I'll have a look.
A really good book. So, but amazing. Thank you so much, Krista. I've really enjoyed connecting with you today, and I look forward to following your journey.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
One thing I dread doing is chasing up rent arrears and debt collection. It takes up valuable time and it can often lead to conflict. But it is a necessary evil when you are running a property management business. But there is an easier way to make sure your tenants' rent is paid on time and in advance, and it's called RentPay. RentPay is a secure and simple to use payment platform that saves agents time and money with fast, accurate receipting while making life better for renters. To top it all off, you'll never have to worry about dishonor fees or unknown deposits again. How good is that? Cleared funds are deposited straight into your bank account in a single daily payment with accurate receipting and reference numbers auto-assigned, and it's fully compatible with all trust accounting systems. It's a super flexible payment option for tenants who can pay rent in multiple ways, including direct debit, credit card, or instantly pay with Payer ID. Fees are minimal, and RentPay even helps with the rent arrears process by automating reminders to renters when payments are due or missed. If you are currently paying large bank fees, struggling with constant dishonors because the funds aren't cleared when their funds land in your trust, or wasting time chasing up unknown payments, I encourage you to book in a free demo with RentPay and give yourself and your renters an easier way to pay rent. Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.